All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. We're going to get into the Honda Classic preview here for you guys. And as we know, this tournament does typically play a lot more difficult. Two names off the bat to look for are going to be Sungjae Im, the defending champ. He's been playing some great golf. I expect him to be one of the higher priced players. And then Daniel Berger as well. He calls this area his home course. I expect him to be a higher priced player as well. Both those two guys should be kind of good options for us this week. But let's get into the deep dive here for the Honda Classic. All right, guys, so I have it pulled up here already. We can see that this tournament typically does play very, very difficult. Okay, so the average cut line is 2.5. That is insane. This is like the hardest tournament, regular tournament on tour the whole year. Maybe you could say it's like the hardest tournament to play on the whole year, factoring in majors as well. The average win score, almost 9 under par. Not quite, though. We've seen the last really 3 years it's played a little bit more difficult. Obviously in 2018 it was +5 for a cut line. That was insane. And then +2, +3, pretty crazy there. Rickie absolutely dominated in 2017. I think he beat the rest of the field by like 4 strokes, which was pretty insane. Yeah, the last 4 winners: Sungjae Im, Keith Mitchell, Justin Thomas, Rickie Fowler. So we can see that when it does play difficult with the weather, when the weather's bad, when it's windy conditions, and windy conditions for bad weather, windy conditions is +20 mph winds. Okay, so we see that be a significant factor in terms of the cut. So that's something we'll have to pay attention to, because in last year it was +20 mph winds. We see that +3, and then in 2018 +20 mph winds +5. So that is something to look at. That's something I can put out there on the 9 to 5 Sports page for the members to show you guys like who plays a little bit better in windy conditions. Obviously that's going to be a bigger factor, and something that'll be interesting to see here when we get into the stats is like which key stats matter a little bit more when it's windy, so we can break that down year by year. So we'll just start off here though. We'll scroll down to, well, we'll start off here. I think it's important to note that players that made the cut, they ranked a little bit better in bogey avoidance, and they ranked a little bit better in par 5 scoring as well. We do see just right off the bat that driving distance is not as much of a key factor as driving accuracy. Just something that I think that we should, take note of. So let's just scroll down here. We'll sort it by top 20 here. So players that finished in the top 20, let's see kind of what their key stats were. So par 4 scoring is starting to pop, and that is expected, but this is really starting to pop in terms of the norm. So maybe we look at par 4 scoring as well. Obviously the lower we get, birdie to bogey ratio is going to start to pop, because those are the players who are obviously scoring the best and have the best birdie to bogey ratio. Thus they're going to be finishing better. So still though, bogey avoidance, birdie to bogey ratio, tougher track, that's what you want to look at. We start to see grid drive percentage really separate itself. Total driving and ball striking start to become pretty significant. Strokes gained tee to green, that's normally going to be the most significant stat, but we're starting to see that separate itself. Let's look at the top 10. Any big differences there? All right, so ball striking starts to separate itself from total driving, kind of expected there. But we start to see strokes gained approach be a pretty key stat. Makes a lot of sense there. Par 4 scoring, obviously. Birdie to bogey ratio really starting to pop, but we see that, it's not a scoring course. I mean, we already know that, but we start to see that data-wise that, birdie to bogey ratio, bogey avoidance are going to be much more of a key stat than the scoring stat of birdie or better percentage. One thing to know is that the 200 to 175 yardage range, I did notice top 20 players played well at that, and now also top 10. So kind of something to monitor there. Scrambling, not a big thing. Let's just see. Players in first place. Let's see what those guys have done well at. All right, so bogey avoidance, birdie to bogey ratio, obviously. Surprisingly, they all did really well in par 5 scoring. So that is interesting to me. They all took advantage of the par 5s. Strokes gained tee to green, that makes sense. So this is a key thing here, guys. The last 4 winners have dominated in strokes gained approach, but their putting was kind of so-so. So really, this is telling me that as long as you're giving yourself the opportunities to play well, aka putting yourself in ranges where you don't really have to make up for it with your putter, you're going to be playing well. Something to note is scrambling starts to become a bigger factor there, and then driving distance does start to become a bigger factor as well. Kind of shocking to me there, because there's a huge drop off after that. We just go to top 17. It starts to be a lot more balanced there. just something to note. Now, I did want to look at the 2 years where it was bad compared to the 2 years where it wasn't bad. So we're going to pull up 2020 and 2018, the 2 years where the weather was bad, the windy conditions were bad. See what were the key stats there compared to the other years. So ball striking, not a big difference there. That's kind of surprising. Still bogey avoidance, birdie to bogey ratio. We see that. Really just test your whole game here. Let's see top 10 if there's a big difference. Top 11, I guess. So not a huge difference there. All right, let's just switch gears here and go over to the other two, 2019 and 2017, see if there's a big difference. Really, that's honestly a little bit shocking to me, guys. So in the weeks where it's good weather, we see ball striking matter a little bit more. That's fascinating to me, honestly, guys. Where, I mean, typically it's the other way around in bad weather conditions like that. So as a whole, though, we do know to look at ball striking when it's windy. I mean, it's just going to be a course where we want to look at ball striking. We want to look at strokes gained tee to green. This is just fascinating to me that we see that. So for me, the key stats are going to be strokes gained tee to green. You know, we're going to be looking at that for sure. We are going to be looking at strokes gained approach. You know, those are kind of the two key stats. I do think good drive percentage will be kind of a key stat as well. You guys can choose between bogey avoidance or birdie to bogey ratio. That's going to be up to you guys. But that's kind of it. You know, ball striking I'll go with because I do favor that a little bit more. But kind of an interesting week as a whole. Really, the last 3 weeks have been very similar in terms of the stats that we want to look at, just kind of tweaking it a little bit here and there. But this one's pretty straightforward. As long as you have a guy that's hitting the shots, that's in control of their golf ball, they're going to go out and play well. I think we see that with Sungjae Im winning. Maybe you do want to look at someone that plays a little bit better on tougher tracks, because I think that is something worthy to note, is that really the last 4 winners have been playing well on those tougher tracks as well. So definitely something to look at for you guys. Going to be a very interesting week. Hoping for a little bit better bounce back week in terms of data confidence there, where, you know, hopefully it's going to be much. I mean, it'll regress back. It's going to be a better week this week, where it's going to be more, not more difficult to predict, but with it being a tougher event, it's still going to be tough to predict, which obviously creates a huge edge. So there is going to be some carnage again this week, which to me gets me excited, because if you get 6 for 6 across the cut line, you're set up huge. Personally, this week I have a few lines for 6 for 6 across the cut line, and 2 of those are in the top 100 right now, mid Sunday afternoon, which to me tells me that, hey, obviously that's great. It's just a matter of getting those 6 for 6 cut numbers, lineups across the cut line, and you're set up pretty. It's one of those fun things where to get that weekend sweat throughout really the 4 days is awesome. And that's with kind of, I don't want to say bad week, just a less predictable week. So in a week where it's probably going to be a little bit more predictable, could be there for us. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's a nice course preview here for the Honda Classic. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and subscribe. If you guys want to join 9 to 5 Nation, the link is in the description below. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and as always, let's keep cashing.